Yes, you actually can have healthy negative emotions. So I'm going to just give you a little crash course in REBT, the basics. REBT is all about rational thinking. It's realistic, it's reasonable, and it's flexible. It's functional and helpful in terms of your long-term goals and values. And it reflects preferences rather than the absolute demands that we tend to take in life. So REBT, the basics, it's an acronym, another acronym. We love acronyms in the recovery world. SMART recovery is self-management and recovery training, and REBT is rational emotive behavior therapy. And the rational, most people can realize that when they think more reasonably, more rationally, that life generally goes better. So this piece makes sense to a lot of people. And then we have the E in REBT, and that means emotive. Most people understand that their emotions are affected by what happens to them and how they think about what has happened to them. That is the key. It's not really what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens to us. The B in REBT is behavior. Most people accept that what they do, their behavior, affects how they think and feel. And then the T in REBT is for therapy. It can also mean teaching or training, especially in the context of SMART recovery. So REBT, the basics, goes on to tell us that it helps us to better manage our thoughts, our moods, our feelings, our behaviors. So it's really perfect for people with multiple interacting psychological and addictive problems. REBT is a self-help, self-management tool of therapy that also encourages you to accept limitations while working on self-change. So there's a technique with REBT called the ABCs. And of course, we go a little deeper into the alphabet with D and E. So the A is the activating event or other adversity in life, and certainly no shortage of those in life. And then the B is the beliefs. We're looking at both our rational and our irrational beliefs, attitudes around that activating event or other adversity, and our beliefs about ourselves, others, and life. We want to get very specific around that. And then we go into C, and we list the consequences of having those beliefs and attitudes around those adversities and activating events. And then we go a little bit deeper. Let's dispute all of those beliefs that we're having, rational and irrational, and we can go into the cognitive distortion list. Now, there are 10 most common unhelpful thinking patterns, and they're called cognitive distortions in a lot of places. I prefer to call them unhelpful thinking patterns. What I love about SMART is that it doesn't encourage us to use labels on ourselves. So you won't hear people in SMART say, I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict, because we are not our addictions. You know, we have enough labels in life. Labels belong on food. So I want to just give you a rundown quickly of these 10 most common cognitive distortions or unhelpful thinking patterns. Number one is all or nothing thinking. We see things in black and white categories. So if our performance falls short of perfect, for instance, we see ourselves as total failures. And then we can overgeneralize. We see a single negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat for us. The mental filter, where we pick out a single negative detail and dwell on that exclusively, so that our vision of all reality then becomes darkened by that one negative thing. It's kind of like the drop of ink that colors the entire beaker of water. And then we have disqualifying the positive, where we reject positive experiences by insisting that they don't count for some reason. And in this way, we can maintain our negative beliefs that is contradicted by our everyday experiences. And then we jump to conclusions. We make negative interpretations, even though there are no definite facts that convincingly support our conclusions. We can get into mind reading, where we arbitrarily conclude that someone is reacting negatively to us. And then we just don't bother to check this out at all. And then we become the fortune teller as well, where we anticipate that things will turn out badly, and we feel convinced that our prediction is an already established fact. Then we can get into magnification, catastrophizing, or even minimization, where we exaggerate the importance of things, such as a goof up or someone else's achievements, or we can inappropriately shrink things until they appear tiny, maybe our own desirable qualities or the other fellow's imperfections. It's also called the binocular trick. And then we have emotional reasoning. We assume that our negative emotions reflect the way things really are. I feel it, therefore it must be true. And then we have should statements. We say, stop shoulding yourselves in recovery circles, where we try to motivate ourselves with shoulds and shouldn'ts. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should have done that. If I should have only, I should have, coulda, woulda. As if we had been whipped or punished before we could be expected to do anything. And then we have masturbations as well, where we must behave a certain way. We ought to do this. Those are also big offenders. The emotional consequence of these shoulding statements, these masturbations, is guilt. And when we direct should statements toward ourselves and others in life, we feel angry, we feel frustrated, we feel resentful. So REBT helps us turn these thoughts into more helpful thinking patterns, and certainly turning a negative emotion into less negative emotion. We can have healthy negative emotions as opposed to unhealthy negative emotions. And then number 9 of these cognitive distortions, labeling and mislabeling. This is an extreme form of overgeneralization. Instead of describing our mistake, we attach a negative label to ourselves, like I'm a loser. And then when someone else's behavior rubs us the wrong way, we can attach a negative label to them. You know, he's a louse, he's a loser, a-hole. Mislabeling involves describing an event with language that is highly colored and emotionally loaded. And then finally, number 10, personalization. You see yourself as the cause of some negative external event, which in fact you were not primarily responsible for. So those are the 10 most common cognitive distortions in the psychiatric field. So we dispute the beliefs that we're having around adversities and activating events with this list of cognitive distortions, so it can help us realize that really we're not thinking rationally around these adversities or activating events in our life. And then we get down to E, where we come up with more effective ways to think, feel, and behave. It's a very handy exercise to use. And it's really important to be specific, because the activating event needs to be what was it that did it for you? What is triggering you? What is upsetting you? They yelled at me. Okay. So then we look at the beliefs around that. I can't believe they dared to yell at me. That's totally unprofessional. They should never have acted that way. I can't stand it. I want to drink, I want a drug, and I have to have what I want when I want it. I can get away with it. It won't matter. You know, we get the F-its. Okay, so let's look at the consequences of having that attitude, those beliefs around that activating event. Well, feeling angry, feeling anxious, very frustrated, getting depressed, may even resort to violence. So many people are the A to C people. So they think you made me angry, and they think the A, your remark or action, caused the C, my anger. The typical Bs, the beliefs or attitudes to watch for. I deserve it. I can't stand what I'm feeling. It's not fair. Poor me. Life should be better. The saying goes, my philosopher dad used to say, it's okay to take a few laps in the pity pool, but you need to know when to get out and dry off. Number 4, I'll just have 1 or 2. I can get away with just having 1 or 2. I'll be fine. A drink and drug would help me. I must have what I have, and I want it now. I can't stand not drinking, gambling, drugging, shopping, sexing, whatever it is. I can get away with it. It won't matter. I'm going to do it anyway, eventually. Screw it. Let's do it. And then the part 2 of the ABCs, once you define the ABC, you move on into the D and the E, you dispute it. You question, challenge those unhelpful beliefs. Where's the evidence that no one should ever yell at me? Where is it written that a supervisor must always behave professionally? Why is it so awful? Why isn't it just a hassle instead of a horror? And where is the evidence that it won't matter? And then we move into the E, we come up with more effective thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Well, yeah, I don't like people yelling at me, but I've tolerated it before, so the evidence suggests that I can certainly stand it again. Or maybe I'd prefer that people not yell at me, sure, but I can tolerate that I don't always get what I want. Life sometimes sucks. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, I kind of love what he has to say. Hell is other people. I will try to feel annoyed and determined and keep my job rather than feel enraged and make myself sick. I'll go for a long walk or maybe take a yoga class tonight because I always think and feel better after I do that. So this is a really helpful exercise to go through. Emotional sobriety is not being free of our emotions. Emotions are not going anywhere. That's impossible. We're always going to have our emotions, but we can learn how to free ourselves from the bondage to our emotional states. Emotional sobriety is a state in which you experience your emotions and respect them, but you respond to them the way you would respond to other kinds of information. So you don't act out in a knee-jerk reaction to every passing emotional state as if it were your life's rule or your drug, nor do you blame your emotional responses on other people. It's about taking full responsibility for your emotions and your choices to act or not act in certain situations. How's that? Rational emotive behavioral therapy in a nutshell. So now you have a better understanding of REBT. I'm only ever just a phone call or a text message or an email away. So please reach out to me. My name is Tanya MacIntyre. You can find me at redroofrecovery.com. You can email me at redroofrecovery@gmail.com, and you can text or call me at 519-616-3636. May the force be with you. And remember, you are the force. You can do this. Just stick with it.